Hi there, my name is Andrew Brown, and welcome to Relative and Absolute Configurations. We don't have very many items to cover in this video, so we'll be able to go into depth on the ZE and RS notation systems, as well as their use in Fisher projections. Keep in mind, however, that this video is not designed to review stereoisomers. We'll instead explore the procedures needed to identify the ZE and RS forms, and you'll see each one in multiple settings, so you'll have plenty to go on when you have to do it yourself on the MCAT. After watching this video, you should be able to answer questions like this one, which asks you for the absolute configuration of a given organic molecule. We'll start off with the Z and E nomenclature system, which describes absolute configuration about a double bond. Here, you're given one example each of Z and E alkenes. In a lot of organic chemistry, we use cis and trans to describe the orientation of a double bond within a hydrocarbon. That worked fine when all we had to deal with were carbon and hydrogen, but what if you're given an alkene with 3 or more different substituents? This is where Z and E come in. Luckily, there's a neat little mnemonic for remembering which is which. When the 2 highest priority substituents are on the same side, you're dealing with the Z orientation. When they're on opposite sides, you're dealing with E. Now that you've seen, generally, what makes a molecule Z or E, let's be sure to nail down how to determine each substituent's priority in the first place. You start by ordering the substituents by atomic number, which essentially means that the bigger, heavier elements will have higher priority. In the event of a tie, however, look at the next adjacent atom and again compare atomic numbers just as before. After that, just locate the highest priority substituent on each end of the double bond and determine if they are on the same side or on opposite sides. For our example molecule here, the first double bond appears to be in the Z form. Oftentimes, the organic molecules that the MCAT throws at you will have multiple double bonds. But in that case, you're really just going to repeat this method for each additional double bond. So here, our example molecule has one of each type of double bond. In naming it, then, the Z and E go at the beginning of the molecule's IUPAC name along with their locations. Spelled out, this molecule will be named 2Z5E 2-iodo-3-methyl-hept-2,5-diene. Okay, so the Z and E configurations were all about double bonds. Now we'll take a look at the R and S forms, which apply to stereocenters. Again, you're given an example of each configuration, with R coming from the Latin word rectus and S from sinister. Imagine you're driving a car. You would turn the wheel clockwise to turn the car right, and counterclockwise to turn the car left. It's the same idea here. However, a word of caution. While chiral molecules are said to be optically active, meaning that they rotate plane polarized light, the direction in which the light will be rotated is not necessarily the same as that of the stereocenter. It must be calculated experimentally and uses plus-minus notation instead of RS. Now for actually deciding whether a molecule is in the RS configuration. Priority is determined in the same way as with Z and E, by atomic number. A molecule that is already in wedge dash notation, such as this one here, will be easiest to imagine in 3 dimensions. Just line it up so that the lowest priority substituent is pointing away from you, and draw a circle from the first priority substituent to the third. The circle we draw in this instance happens to be clockwise, and so the chiral carbon is displaying R stereochemistry. Just like Z and E, R and S labels also go at the beginning of the molecule's name, and so this one is R-butan-2-ol. Alright, so before we move on to Fisher projections, we should go through one of the tricks that the MCAT might try to play on you with these types of questions. That where the lowest priority substituent is not labeled in the rear. As long as that 4th priority substituent is located in the front of the molecule, you can just proceed as usual at first, picturing the molecule's 3-dimensional representation, drawing a circle that connects substituents 1, 2, and 3 in order, but then, at the end, you have to flip the configuration that you get. That means that in this example, our molecule is actually S, and its name is S-butan-2-ol. Alright, time for Fisher projections. These are the ones we often see associated with sugar chemistry. where the molecule is drawn as a vertical line with several perpendicular intersecting lines. In order to produce your own Fisher projection, it might be easier to start with the wedge dash representation of your molecule. Using 2-chloropropanyl as an example here, the substituents drawn in the plane of the page become the head and feet of the Fisher projection, while the substituents drawn going into and out of the page become the arms. When it's all said and done, the Fisher projection will resemble the molecule drawn farthest to the right here. To determine stereochemistry, assign priority to the substituents just as before. However, also keep in mind that the arms of the Fisher projection face forward. So, if the lowest priority substituent is in that position, you'll have to flip the eventual configuration that you come up with. In the Fisher projection here, notice that although we draw a clockwise circle, the real configuration is S, which should match up with the stereochemistry of the original wedge dash diagram. Okay, so that actually does it for the material this video will review. Now, let's apply what you've learned on some practice questions. This first one features the same molecule you saw at the beginning of the video. What is its absolute configuration? The answer should be C. This question actually has two parts to it. First, you must determine R or S and Z or E stereochemistry, but as well, you have to decide how to number the carbons based on the substituents present. The hydroxyl group is the highest priority substituent, so by definition, it will be connected closest to carbon number 1. Remember, when naming a molecule, substituents' priorities are not always correlated with atomic number. Now we can characterize the chiral carbon and the double bond. Let's start with the chiral carbon. Because we are only shown 3 substituents and there is no double bond, you can assume that a hydrogen atom is the 4th substituent and that it is behind the molecule. Therefore, when we assign first, second, and third priority to the boxed substituents, the circle formed is clockwise, indicating the R configuration, and we leave it as R. Okay, so the number 2 carbon has the R configuration. Now what about that double bond? On the right end of the double bond, bromine has the higher atomic number, and thus the higher priority. On the left end of the double bond, we have this big, bulky substituent and a hydrogen atom, which is so minute it's not even drawn in. Here, as before, the bulkier group receives higher priority. Okay, so now you've got a double bond with its 2 highest priority substituents on the same side of the double bond. That means it's in the Z configuration. Consulting the answer choices, only C matches what we've determined thus far. Now for our next question. This one is also asking you to determine absolute configuration, but the molecule you're given, glucose, is depicted in its Fisher projection. The answer here should be C. Before we dive into the explanation, there was a pretty substantial shortcut you could have used to arrive at C rather quickly in this case. Notice that, out of the 4 stereocenters, the first, third, and fourth appear to all be in the same orientation. If you look at the answer choices, C is the only one with such a pattern. Even if you weren't able to see that, you should still be able to get this question right. We'll start by drawing in Mr. Fisher's 4 bow ties to remind us that horizontal substituents are pointing toward us. When we draw in our circles connecting the top 3 priority substituents for carbons 2, 4, and 5, they each go counterclockwise, which would normally indicate S. But in this case, we flip to R on account of the lowest priority substituents, hydrogen in this case, being in the front. The third carbon is practically identical, with just the placement of the hydrogen and the hydroxyl switched. Therefore, without doing any work, we can say the third carbon is S configured. If you got both of those questions correct, congratulations. If not, please feel free to go back and rewatch this video as many times as you need. Before we finish, however, let's recap what was covered. We began with the Z and E configurations, examining both forms of 2-bromo-pent-2-ene. We then explored R and S nomenclature, noting that a clockwise arrangement of the top 3 priority substituents indicates R stereochemistry, and that a counterclockwise arrangement indicates S. For Fisher projections, the main points we stressed were that substituents in the wedge dash notation that point into or out of the page get drawn on the horizontal of the Fisher projection, while those substituents that are drawn in the plane of the page in the wedge dash notation become the verticals of the Fisher projection. Also, be sure to remember that whatever configuration you derive from the Fisher projection needs to be flipped so that it matches the configuration of the wedge dash projection. Thanks very much for watching, and good luck in your continued MCAT study.